to A Well-Designed Business. My name is LuAnn Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company WindowWorks from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today, I am talking with Carley Page Summers, a North Carolina-based photographer, photo stylist, and interior designer. Carley's business has two arms, photography and interior design. She serves interior designers with her photography and styling packages, and she also provides interior design services to homeowners who need anything from e-design to full gut renovation. Carley's distinctive style was influenced by a season of her life spent volunteering in Haiti. And after her time in Haiti, Carley studied art and achieved her BFA with a focus on photography and painting. Before we go to more information about Carley, let's thank My Doma Studio for their continued support of the show and of you. At My Doma Studio, they are always iterating to continually serve you better, more intuitively. My Doma Studio is the best place to manage your interior design projects easily and efficiently, from mood board creation, invoicing clients, QuickBooks integration, and my two favorite features, vendor and client communication within the specific project the communication belongs to. Not just willy-nilly in an email box. Love, love, love that. Go to mydomastudio.com/a well-designed business for the special offers they have for you as a listener of the podcast. All right, let's hear from Carley and learn what prompted her to travel to Haiti, to start a photography business, and then to making a big mark on the world of interior design. Hi, Carley. Thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I am delighted to have you on the show, Carley, and I'm excited about having a conversation. You have such an interesting business. I've been reading about you, getting to know you a little bit about you off air, and I think you're the first time that I have met and spoke to a photographer who, as I understand, started as a photographer, then went into interior styling and photography, and then went into interior design. And is that the trajectory? Is that how it went for you, Carley, in that order?
That's correct. Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting journey.
So crazy, right? Now, we've talked with Charlotte Safafi on the show, who's an interior stylist, and I remember her actually saying, I don't want to do the design. Like, this is my lane. I want to be here. So how was it for you that it developed one to the other?
Well, so doing the interior photography, I saw how the designers just, when I got to come in and photograph their space, and then they would see those photos and how proud they were, just all the hard work they had put in, I really resonated with that. And have my bachelor's in fine art. And so a composition is super important to me. So I don't want to call it greedy in a way, but I saw the ability to create a full composition and photograph it, and for that to be kind of all mine, and was really inspired by that. I grew up around interior design. My mom is super talented. She wasn't an interior designer, but did all of her friends' houses. And my grandfather was actually a mid-century modern furniture designer in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And he has totally inspired kind of this journey. So yeah, I just saw the ability to do something, and I was passionate about it, and I really just said it. I spoke it into life, and I just kind of, it's really, and I say this and not in a bad way, but it was a really fake it till you make it kind of thing. And I just went after it.
Amazing. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're saying is, And I have to say, if I hadn't had some really nice conversations with Charlotte, I might not have understood this. That Charlotte has taught me and many of us that as talented as an interior designer is in putting a room together, putting a photo shot together, putting a shot together is a different layer. And so when you said the word composition there, I understood that to mean the way Charlotte has previously expressed to me that all the accessories in a specific area of a room belong where they belong when you look at the whole room. But when you're going to take a photo of a section of that room, now those accessories may come, go, edit, move around, right? Is that what you're saying?
100% correct, because things are going to look like things that look natural to your eye might not look natural in the camera. So you have to adjust, move, fold, add more layers. So that's 100% correct.
Interesting, right? That was a learning lesson for me, when I, in my conversations with Charlotte. And so now what you're saying is you are recognizing that full cred to the designers that you were working with. I heard you say that you were grateful and happy to be on their projects and you see a beautiful room, but you're noticing your talent for creating something that's better from a photography standpoint out of what existed. And that started to ignite a passion in you, like, whoa, maybe I can do it for the rest of the room. Maybe I can do it where it doesn't have anything to do with the actual shot, right?
For sure.
Crazy, right? Okay. So another question that I had for you is, when I look at your portfolio and particularly your Instagram feed, other than when you are in the camera, are these all your photographs that you've taken? Or are you at the point now where you're now hiring other photographers to take your interior shots?
Well, I have actually never hired another interior photographer, but I will say that they're one of the most beneficial things to have as an interior designer. And what's helped me financially for my business is I don't have to hire an interior photographer. I am the interior photographer because no one will shoot it the way that I have created the composition. So instead of having a designer, then a stylist, then a photographer, I know exactly from the beginning how I want each angle to look. So when I go in and I'm able to photograph it, I might have to do a couple tweaks, but because I knew the original design from the beginning, I'm able to come in, get the shot. And photo shoots actually within our own business happen pretty quickly, especially because I have 5 people on set helping me layer, load everything into the room, and then I get to layer it within 5-10 minutes. I set up the shot, we get the shots that we need, and we call it the money shot, that shot that's going to wow the people. And so I am actually, even the shots that I am in, I've either trained my assistant Darby or it's on a tripod.
Right. So, I mean, because your photography is really beautiful. I mean, there's so many photos that are so beautiful, but there's one that really just particularly struck me. It's like an unmade bed.
Yeah.
And it's everything in the picture. It's the way the bed is unmade, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's the light, the way it hits it, and it's really it's something. I mean, you listen to the show. I'm not usually about the pretty. That's not really where my interest is. Not because I don't appreciate it, but it's breathtaking, your photography. It really is.
Well, thank you. And I will say the unmade bed is definitely a signature of mine. I think that there's something about interior design that can feel a little bit contrived. So when there's this naturally lived in look with light streaming in, it really wants, in the photography, it makes you want to go and sit there and be a part of that moment. And that's something that I've tried to create not only with my interior photography, but my interior design, like how the light hits the sofa, how the light hits the art or the different pieces of furniture, because I call myself a seeker of light in so many different ways. So definitely I try to embrace that in my photography and design as well.
Well, and you nailed it on the head. It does, your photos make you feel like, I got that feeling like, oh, I want to be in that room.
I love that.
Totally did get those feelings. So that's awesome. Okay, so now you are a photographer. You start to do styling for the designers. You decide to do it on your own. These are all well and good to say. It's another thing to execute this stuff,
yes.
And so how does it happen, Carley? How does it happen that, because when you're doing photography, you are marketing yourself to and trying to attract interior designers. But now when you want to go do interior design, it's a different market to attract. Where's the chicken and the egg? I mean, you have a very large Instagram following. Did you have the large following when you were primarily the photographer and the stylist, and then you had to start to talk to consumers, or did the large following gain momentum when you started? How did that work?
So the large momentum of the followers came with the styling and the interior photography for sure. Now I have been able to, and by no means am I saying I've beat the algorithm, but I still grow very consistently. And it is because I'm producing my own images. The only thing that I do post is kind of that money shot that's going to gain a lot of traction. But yeah, I definitely layered in the interior design after the interior styling and photography had already kind of hit its limit on my Instagram. And I did that with seeing that there was a market for, and I think we had talked about this a little bit, is like I wanted to create affordable interior design in the beginning, because at the age of 28, I couldn't afford exactly what I wanted, but I knew how to create it. So I figured, why not try to create this for other people and kind of create this niche business? And that's kind of where that started.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And I can see that as a valuable tactic. What you said is that you are posting on Instagram your interior styling and photos for other designers, and then you're layering in your own work and gradually saying to the world, and I do design too. So that's
Yep.
a valid, I can see that happening easily, and it makes sense. And
Yep.
then this affordable design. So look, this is industry people here.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, at every layer of our industry, even the designer who is the most reasonable per hour is arguably a luxury service, right?
100,
I mean, right? And so what is
100%.
right. So what does that mean now? What did it mean when you were 28? I want to be, provide affordable design. And what does it mean, these many years later? I think there's all of 5 of them later. I don't know, maybe it's 7, Carly.
Yeah.
But, now you're running a business, and now you are an international brand. And so what is how have you kept to, I think, probably what you're, I hear that you are
28-year-old.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. How do you keep true to that, but really recognize that you're running a business? How
Yes.
have you, is what I should
Well,
say.
so for sure, at 28, the profit that I was making was on the interior design services was not really substantial. What really was my bread and butter was the interior photography, being able to charge one day rate and show up. So
Okay.
being able to craft this new interior design business in a way that was affordable to me, but also to other people, it started small. And this is where I think has helped me so much, is that because where I lived wasn't, the people who lived in my area weren't necessarily my style. I was able to put myself out there as a virtual interior designer where I got to start small. I'm not there with contractors. I'm not there with builders and subs. I'm there helping them on camera measure 6 inches outside of the window frame, measure for the rug size that they need, measure for different artwork that they need. So I was able to help people come in a more small style
Mm.
of interior design, not large scale, like with new builds, remodels, things like that. So that's where that started at that age, because there were so many people were like, hey, Carly, how do you layer these rugs and these pillows and these art to not make it look like a thrift store?
Mm.
But some of it was from a thrift store. And so that's how I started. And so how that's gradually changed is our virtual design clients have grown. We have about 15 and some of those are international. And what we've been able to do is create these custom packages for our clients where we send them a layout, and this is what our consultation fee is. And then if you need us for sourcing hours, because we don't take a retainer for people who aren't local, we will just charge them the hours it took us to source for them. So it's been this interesting business that I've kind of I created out of just thinking of my own needs. And what it's done is it's turned into a more financial business because we've been able to source now higher end items where we can do markups, rugs, vintage textiles, art, things like that, which has been able to help increase our revenue.
Okay, interesting. So you were jumping on the e-design bandwagon and doing the virtual before it was mainstream, I guess
Yeah.
is what we want to say.
Yeah. We've been doing it for about 5 years.
Okay, okay. All right. And then and it's funny because I'm thinking of Cheney Widmer, who has been doing it for those years and maybe a little bit more, but it was more uncommon, right? Is the point. It was more uncommon. Okay, so what you do, and is that the primary business model now as well, Carley, or is that just kind of reverted back this year because of COVID, or do you have in normal times, do you have any number of projects that are local to you in North Carolina, or possibly that you previously before COVID would have traveled to do and be the person meeting with the contractor, or is that your model?
Yep. So we actually do both. So the virtual design was something I did in the beginning because it was so easy for me to connect with my followers and they wanted exactly kind of what I had in my home. But when I actually moved back to my hometown, I got a brick and mortar here, an office downtown locally, which has been able to help with foot traffic. People know that we're a more accredited business. And what has happened is over the past 2 years, we've been able to land local projects down to additions and remodels, new builds, full gut commercial spaces. So we have about 5 local projects on the ground right now.
Okay, okay. And how is that with your retail store? So I should say your brick and mortar location. It
And
doesn't
maybe I worded that a little bit wrong. So it's not brick and mortar. So it's just me having a local office downtown, and I worded that incorrectly. But just I have like a local space where my local clients can come. We present to them. We have mood boards. We have fabrics, things like that to help project, the vision of their project.
Okay, so we're not open to the public. It's your studio space. It just happens to be in the downtown area.
Yes, and you can walk in and ask questions, but most people, walk by, they see the name, and outside of our window it says Carley Summers Interiors, Photography, and Styling. So
Okay.
we continue that
Okay.
kind of trifecta.
Interesting. And at this stage, with how your company has grown, I mean, are you even available and would you take any photography and styling projects for other designers, or is it sort of like, no, I'm busy on my own now?
Honestly, we would 100% take those projects because the one thing that I do love is like celebrating other people's work. And I think I've been most inspired by working with other designers, and growing and learning from them. And the designers that I have met have been such an inspiring community and they've lifted me up as well during this process. I love that it's been like this lift as you climb kind of celebratory thing with one another, which has been sweet. But we 100% still take interior photography jobs. We just got pitched one for New York for in spring of next year, which is it's difficult with the interior photography and the styling because we did have to pivot so hard and kind of turn away from that because during COVID almost all of our interior photography shoots were canceled.
Yes, right. All right. We
So
all experienced that. Exactly.
Yes. So it took a huge hit to our business. So that's the reason why we pushed so hard virtual design because so many people, are sitting at home that, some people still are receiving a paycheck,
Right.
because they're able to work from home. And a lot of people are going, hey, this is my place. How do I make it special? And that's where a market we've been able to meet.
Absolutely. 100% agree. Okay. And then so how is your business structured, Carley? Do you have do you have a bookkeeper? How does the finances get handled? Who handles the marketing? Tell us a little bit about the structure of your business.
Okay, so structure of the business is I'm definitely like the creative mind, the director. Typically, I do kind of get to put on myself to do the fun things. I mean, I still have to go to Lowe's and buy light bulbs every once in a while. But so my executive design assistant, Darby, does run a lot of our marketing, our PR. She's the one who reaches out to podcasts to get me out there. She finds new creative opportunities for us. And then my husband actually is full-time on our staff, and he does our bookkeeping and our financials and really does keep me on a budget, and helps us and directs us in our financial goals.
Awesome. I love that. And so when you first started, so Darby is doing a lot of the marketing now. Is she the one who handles this massive, amazingly impressive Instagram, or is that you? I imagine it was you in the beginning.
So it's still me.
It
It's
is
still
still you.
me.
Yes.
It's funny. Instagram, I think sometimes it's a place that can like suck a lot of time out of people. And don't get me wrong, I can get caught scrolling for far too long. But Instagram has been a place for me that is so sweet. And so it's not something I've given over the reins to. And I will be honest, I comment back to every single person who comments on one of my photos. So I might have 500 people comment, and I set aside work hours to comment to those people, to answer DMs. And it's been something where I've been able to connect with my followers, which has actually helped me grow because I've been so intentional in like getting to know them and answering their questions.
And that is the key, is that you do have to set aside the work hours, right? If you want to grow it, you can't be, I catch this, at a traffic light and blah, blah, blah. And what are you at this point, Carley? What's necessary? I can hear that you enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I can hear that you like the connection and that you're happy to do it. But is it an hour a day? Is it 2 hours a day? Like, I can't imagine what it is.
Yeah, so it can definitely be taxing, but what I try to do is I only post on Instagram about 2 to 3 times a week. So and they're going to be major money shot photos where I know, this is going to gain a lot of traction. People are going to have questions about it. So what I do is I know I'm going to post this at around 12 o'clock lunchtime because that's my highest demographic of followers are on. And I know that I'm going to need an hour or hour and a half to comment back, to every person who immediately comments on there. And my staff knows when I post it on Instagram, they're delegating, they're doing what they need to do, and I'm there answering people's questions. And honestly, people are just saying, wow, this is beautiful. And I take the approach of, if someone compliments me in real life, I'm not going to stay silent.
Right.
So I think if someone takes time out of their day to compliment me on my work, I have to make sure that that compliment is received and also like spoken back to. So we only post about 2 to 3 times a week. And so we make sure that it's not a post every single day, because that would literally suck the life out of me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then do you do stories every day, or you don't? I'm not a big, it's funny because 80% of the people I talk to are like, I only watch stories. I don't do the main feed. I only scroll the main feed for the most part. So I know your main feed, but I'm not aware. Are you a stories person every day, or you just do stories on the same 2 to 3 days? How do you approach that?
I kind of just do stories on that same 2 to 3 days. But one thing I do is like my stories aren't like super perfectly curated. Now, Darby has started getting me on Reels, which is super new to me. But I will just kind of post organically like, wow, I'm looking at all these beautiful fabric samples on the floor. So I just take a quick overview of what we're doing in the office that day just to kind of create inspiring moments for people. And then people might ask, 10 people might ask, hey, what's that fabric? And I'll send them over, a quick DM. So we do stories, but we try to keep it limited to the amount of time that we have.
Okay. Interesting. It takes a lot to build a social media platform to the level you have, but I can hear you too also saying that, of course, you have the ability to put a money shot up 3 times a week. The rest of us may, a designer will invest in a photography session and get X amount of pictures from it, but it's tough to keep the beast fed is really the point.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, sometimes I do have a filler shot here and there where it's just like a moment on my kitchen island where I'm like focusing on like a brass spoon and a salt dish, but then I get questions. Where's that from? So not everything is going to be perfect, but in my eye, it's something that inspired me, and I hope it inspires other people. So yeah, it is tough, I think, and I think that's why my Instagram has grown and my business has grown, because I'm pushing out all original content. Mm-hmm. I'm not doing the found on Pinterest. I'm doing, this is my imagery, my work, or I always credit the designer who designed the space, and also it's my photography. So that's helpful for my business.
Yes, it's a nice leg up. You have to be good at what you're doing as a photographer and a designer, but it is a nice leg up, right, for you?
Yeah. For sure.
Yes. And then tell me a little bit about the the week in and the week out of running your firm. So are we having weekly meetings with Darby? Is Darby involved in with the client, presentations? And how does like the nuts and bolts of running your company look like?
Yeah, so I mean, starting off, we go into work every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I learned a long time ago that if I don't have a strict schedule, I'm not going to get work done, and I find like relief and routine. So Darby is with me every day except for Fridays. She handles a lot of the client communication. She is the one answering their calls, checking in with them, making sure that they're happy. She is a very integral part of the business. And I actually found her out of college. She came on to a photo shoot with me one time when I was struggling to find inspiration. And this is just a note to her. I remember I was so tapped out doing this photo shoot because I was styling for someone who had sent me products to photograph in my own home. And I was like, I just want to take a lunch break. And she goes, nope, we're going to finish and we're going to finish good. And then we're going to eat lunch. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, I'm hiring this girl because I am such a creative and I get tapped out and I have creative lag. And she's just kind of that administrative push for me that helps me just keep going. But yeah, so we go in 9 to 5 every day, lunch breaks. That's kind of how it functions. And then she is super involved in the client presentations. I will say I am not tech savvy. She has set me up with a microphone and on this Skype call, I am a full right brain creative. I struggle with the left. And so she really helps with the client presentations, and we actually run a lot of our business through Google Drive, and she has helped set up all those systems as well.
Wow, that's amazing. You could be describing my setup here too between Lisa and Diana's. I said to my husband a couple of days ago, I said a year and a half ago I never heard of the word Google Drive. Now there must be no less than 90 documents in our drive.
Absolutely.
And the funny thing is for me, when I'm looking for something and it's after hours or whatever, I'll be like, I know this darn thing is in here somewhere, but I'll be darned if I can find it.
I'm so with you on that. Sometimes I will text Darby at 7 o'clock and I'd be like, where do I find this? She's like, Carley, it's in the drive.
I know,
and I'm like,
that's not enough information for me sometimes. I'll be like, I know it's in the drive, but I Googled it in the Google Drive and it's not coming up.
I'm the same way. She literally introduced me to Google Drive and has set up the organizational systems of our business. And I swear, I'm like, it's still, so I think I like to play dumb a little bit and be like, I don't know where it is. But she's definitely helped train me.
No,
in Google
it's
Drive.
not. It's not a play with me. It's not a pretend. No, and what's so funny is the answer will usually come back like, Lou, if you just go on the bottom, there's all the tabs. You just look at the tabs and then you'll find it. I'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah, the bottom tabs. I forgot. Anyway, so that's awesome. And then how about with the finances, Carley? Is it like, look, I understand when my first business, our existing business, Window Works, I literally just like, okay, Vincenz, you do finances. I literally didn't have meetings. I didn't have to ask because he's my husband. In LuAnn Nigara Inc., it's a different story. I have a lot more knowledge of it, even though it is not my superpower. I'm much more involved. So with you, because it's your husband, is it like, yeah, you got that? Or are you having meetings with him and understanding what's going on and where it's at?
So we are having meetings. So we will do financial strategy meetings where, he's going over what I spent on job expenses, things that need to be reimbursed, because a lot of times, because I'm so right-brained, I'll purchase something up front for a client, put it in their house. He's like, Carley, did you reimburse for this product? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, that's where I'm so right-brained. I'm like, and that's where he's like, hey, we got to stay on track of invoices. And I will say I don't take a huge part in the finances. I'm like, here's a check. And he takes kind of over that because honestly, it sucks the joy out of me to deal with those types of things. And for a long time before I had him, I was doing all this by myself. And I think I've like kind of earned like my seat where I don't have to do that stuff anymore. And he's kind of fully taken it over and he's really helped us like in the financial department.
Like I said, if you don't, like I get emails all the time from designers that say, what do I do if I don't have a VIN man, right? Like if I don't have a husband that really can do it. And I have compassion for that because it's about the only time you can actually turn away from it. And even then you should understand and, get the big picture of the top you and have your meetings, of course, but there is another layer of, trust there that is different than anything else. So
sure.
I love it. I love it. Another question, Carley, that we have been introducing to the podcast of late is trying to be good allies for our Black interior designer community. And, been making my way through this, but taking the commitment to it very seriously and making sure that the conversation continues and it doesn't become this blip in time for the summer of 2020 and we all go back to business as usual. So I'm starting to ask colleagues that come on the show, what does diversity mean to you and your firm? How has it maybe changed you as a white woman? Anything of the events? Maybe you were at the party, 10 years ago and you weren't one of the, those that where I'm struggling and stumbling over this. So how does it affect you and where are you at and what do you feel is a role that you can play in being a good ally to our Black interior designers?
I think as a white woman, there is a level of ignorance that I did have. Now, I'm not going to say that I was fully ignorant to it. I have had sweet people in my life throughout the years who have made me acknowledge things that I have privilege over. And I think that's been the biggest eye-opening thing through all of this is identifying that, learning how to change that, how to join a conversation. But also one thing that's been important for me that has been taught to me by a lot of these sweet friends is that they don't need to be my teacher. I need to do the research. And I think that also puts another weight on our, Black interior designers and allies is like, hey, teach me. And they're like, they're tired. Yes. They want us to do the research. They want us to go to Barnes and Nobles and read books. They want us to, figure this out and do better and be better. So that's kind of what our strategy has been as our company. And I will say these are conversations that we have weekly in our company because it's so important to me. And I will say, and we talked about this, is I do try to love people genuinely, and that comes from a faith-based part of my life. But it's been so eye-opening, and it's something that I am learning and growing in every day and want to do better at.
It is a what I have learned, one of the things that I have learned is that yes, each of us have been nice ladies in a world and had our circle of friends and quote unquote didn't see color and all of those things, right? But it is learning how, like, literally the racism has been built into the society and how we have benefited from it whether we realized it or not. And now I feel like the lights are on and it's like, oh, I have been benefiting from this. It didn't need to put me personally, never put someone else down or out, but that doesn't mean that I actually understood my inherent privilege. And I think that's...
Or that I'm exempt from it.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So it's an interesting, hard lesson, but to your point, it is not up to our friends to be the ones to teach it to us. And this is why the show is making this little pivot here and having the conversation among white people to say, what are we doing and how are we changing and how are we looking inward to figure out the way? So I'm glad to hear that you are saying that your company is having these conversations amongst your team and how it affects you and how you can affect the greater interior design industry by being more aware, right?
Well, yeah, and even when it gets uncomfortable, like as a white woman, I need to keep moving forward through the uncomfort and encourage my team to do the same so that we can learn and grow and show others.
Exactly.
But it's pushing through those conversations that needed to be had 10 years ago or longer, and that's what we're trying to do as a business.
Mm-hmm. Now, you had mentioned to me off air that in fact your maid of honor is a Black woman. Is there any lesson or any conversation, Carley, that maybe obviously if she's your maid of honor, she's your best friend in the world, right? I mean, you don't just pick a random acquaintance. So Was there any conversation or aha that even on a relationship that's so deep and so genuine that maybe this in this past year she even said, "Hey, and by the way," was there anything like that? I curious.
We had conversations about this 10 years ago.
Mm.
And I mean, it was presented when Obama ran for presidency and the importance of a Black man being president. It was different things like that that she made me eye open. She even sent me YouTube videos of uh, big gatherings of white men talking about white privilege. So my eyes have been open to it for a long time, but have I been inwardly doing something about it? That's still something I'm learning and growing in. So, I mean, we had those conversations over 10 years ago when we were 18, 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just been something that has stuck with me that I don't think that she would need to reverse me in. You know what I mean?
Right. You already had the safety of her teaching you. And that's what it is. And that's where I've been grateful for some of the private conversations I have to the point. It's no one's responsibility to teach anybody else, but a true and genuine friend really can reach out and just say, hey, how about this? You didn't think about it that way, or blah, blah, blah. And that's how the understanding grows. To me, it's very similar in if I'm a podcaster, and if somebody started a podcast, and they asked for my help, I'd be like, okay, now I'm not going to the point. I'm not going to, okay, 8 days a week, it's my job to teach you about podcasting. But when you have a genuine friend like your maid of honor, and she can come to you and point out the things that we might not have seen because of just being privileged, inherently privileged, that's a gift, and you're lucky to have it.
I am indeed.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So I have to ask you another question. I didn't ask you off air because I was waiting for it on air. Yeah. But your assistant, Darby, when she wrote me an email, she wrote all these wonderful things about the different ways that you run your firm and the things that you do that it could possibly teach my audience. And then she said this one line. And Carley was, on the brink of homelessness, before all this happened. It's a Cinderella story. And I just said, what? So tell me a little bit about that, Carley.
Yeah. So 9 years ago, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. I went to rehab twice. I went once when I was 20, and I went once when I was 22. I actually had 2 DUIs. Thankfully, my life was spared and I didn't hurt other people in that process, but I had a tough go around. And I had some traumatic events that happened to me when I was 18 that really plummeted me into drug and alcohol addiction. And so for about 7 years of my life, I really lived a party it up, but pretty kind of worthless lifestyle. And it took me down a road to where I was house to house. And my parents also were not going to enable me through that process. So I was on the brink of homelessness before I went into rehab for the second time at 22 years old. I can now say I've been, and it makes me emotional because it brings me so much joy. I've been sober for over 9 years. So I have victory in that. But I knew that I was destined for something, but the world really just took hold of me, and it took me down. And I think the world sometimes entices you with peace and that these things are really what going to make you happy. And I really leaned into those things. And then when I really found the truth of what brings me hope is when my life started to change. But yeah, I mean, my life is kind of a Cinderella story. It doesn't look like Cinderella's. I didn't have a pumpkin turn into a carriage, but I definitely had this low self-worth turn into a business that provides hope for me and other women. And so a lot of what my business kind of stewards to is bringing hope to other women, kind of letting those chains fall, that the world tells you that the world would say in their eyes that I'm a failure. I've been to rehab twice. I've gotten 2 DUIs. I've spent the night in jail numerous nights, but you look at my Instagram and it's a huge juxtaposition in my business, but it goes to show that you can really set your mind to something and hope and really grow from something. So it's been a blessing. It has definitely been hard because I think in the interior design world, like cocktails and all of that has definitely been something that I've had to make sure I stand strong in. But it's been this really sweet journey, but sometimes I kind of have to pinch myself. I can't believe I'm here, to be honest.
Wow. That's remarkable. I had no idea that that's what you were going to say. And I'm now thinking about the timeline. So your friend, your maid of honor, was with you before that. She was your friend before that, and she stood by you and came through. Your husband, do you meet him before or after that?
I met him after. So I actually, after I went to rehab, I actually moved to Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and I lived there for half of a year because for so long, my privilege had led me down the roads that I was on. And so it was better to learn to serve than to receive. And so I actually lived in Port-au-Prince, Haiti for 6 months, which is actually grew my love of photography. That's when a camera got placed in my hands. And I started photographing the people and the culture and the stories. And it's when I first learned about cultural decor, just the artisans that made things. And so after I served in Haiti for about half a year, I went back to school in West Palm Beach, Florida, and got my bachelor's in fine art. And I met my husband while I was there. And he met me as a sober woman, so he got to see the best of me, but he still sometimes could see the worst of me. But yeah, that's kind of where I met him, and my business actually started in West Palm Beach, which is funny enough.
Wow. Remarkable. And so obviously, Darby included this teaser in the email pitch to me. So it's something that you are talking about because you are finding that it is something that helps other people latch onto and recognize that what you're after looks like is something truly created by you and not handed to you.
Exactly. And it's something that I post about pretty often on my Instagram. And I think that's been a great place for vulnerability for me, where I think a lot of people might shy away from it or feel shame for their past, where it's something I've gained victory in. And it's something I want to help other people gain victory. I mean, I've posted about my sobriety on my sobriety birthday every year, and I'll have messages saying, hey, I got sober last year. It'll make me tear up. Got sober last year because of your post, and I'm still sober now. So it's just, I think a lot of times our past can connotate shame, when mine, I don't identify shame with it anymore, because yes, it's part of my past, but it projected me to where I am now. And it's been this beautiful place for me to share about on Instagram and get vulnerable with my followers, because a lot of people do see, look, she has this Instagram following, she has this husband, she has these friends, she has these things, but it took time and healing to get to this place where I am.
And I total agreement with you, Carley, that it is useless to look back at your past and see and feel shame, and instead to see the accomplishment and the joy that you've created, and also not just in yourself and your own family, and how you are helping others by having been who you were. Now there's other people who can step into their true purpose on this world, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the goal. And I mentioned earlier, I think it's like a lift as you climb type of process. I think a lot of people think, no, I'm going to climb and get to where I need to be and kind of leave everyone in the dust. But mine is more of a mentality, and it is within my business. Like I tell my staff all the time, like, if this is not where your career goals are being met, I want you to flourish. I want you to grow. I want to push you where you need to be. It's not the Carley show. It's like, let's celebrate other people along the journey.
Remarkable. Absolutely amazing. It's so clear what a huge heart you have, Carley. It comes through in your conversation. It comes through in your ideals. You mentioned to me that one of the things with COVID, with having to pivot your business, as difficult as it was because your mission statement is so clear. And I think you mentioned that off air. So I want to just give you an opportunity. I would love for you to share that sentiment. I feel like it ties right into this here.
Yeah, I mean, our mission statement is just so much of being a good steward, and I'm pretty sure that's what you're talking about. and like stewarding what we have on this earth well. And that's been a big pivotal part of our business. And I think that's what you're referring to, correct?
Yes, you said to me that it was difficult, but because your mission statement is to create sacred places and to be that steward for people, is it's a mission statement that's not centric to money. Right? You
Yes.
said, okay, I had to, because this is so true for you and for your team, the pivot was less scary. Is the way I heard it. Is the
Yeah.
way, right?
Exactly. And I think because like, we took a hit, I realized that other people took a hit, and it was important to be able to steward other people's money well during this crisis and this hurt for, our world. And but also like make sure that we were profitable at the same time. And I mean, during a year of COVID, where as a small business, I've been able to break even and make some, where other businesses have gone under, has been a huge blessing, and I recognize that. But it has been so much of our focus, because I think, to take back to 9 years ago, where the word home produced anxiety in me because I didn't have a place to call home. Now creating a sacred space for someone where they can leave their computer at their desk, come home, sit in that spot that we created together, have peace, find rest, meditate, whatever your practice is, and allow your home to be a place of peace for you, has been so important. And we do that because they don't look at this huge bill, which sometimes it's an expense, but they recognize that their money was put into a priority list for them that was special to them in their home design.
That's really an interesting, I love that little nuance in there, is that because your mission is so clear to you, we know that when we have a clear mission and vision for our company and we live it, that it automatically attracts people to us that align with that mission and vision. That is proven over and over. And so what's happening is that you are attracting clients to you that are as committed to their home being a sacred place. And so while it is very expensive and the budgets can be big or large depending on any one person's subjective opinion of what is a large budget, you are attracting clients that are like, this is a priority for me. This matters to me. This isn't just for the Joneses, right? This isn't just because it looks good.
Yeah. And really, I will say we take on projects, 400,000 plus to 5,000. And most of our virtual clients are in the lower end, and, whether they need a couple layers within their home, but I think sometimes it's so easy for us to only focus on the big because we see like that huge financial return. But it's what feels really good to my soul is when my virtual client, sends me a picture of their space and they're like, I can't believe this is my home. And we did this within my budget while I still, as a designer, made money.
Right.
And it's just so important. I have to make sure I lay out my clients' expectations and the goal of their project before I even start taking a design process, because a lot of people will have false expectations of what I can create within their budget. So that's why we're super transparent. We go, that's not gonna, and we say it kinder, but that budget isn't gonna cut it. But hey, let's find some wriggle room here. Let's go here. And, and we work with people. Some people have a strict budget, and I have to, just sadly say that's not going to work. We are excited for you in your journey, but we're not going to be taking that step with you. And then I can outsource other upcoming interior designers who are looking for smaller projects, 2 to 3 hours of work, so that they can start to build their portfolio, kind of that lift as we climb kind of aspect.
I love that. I love that. So, you're saying it very sweetly, very kindly, and very compassionately. But what you're saying in there is that you're very realistic with potential clients, that if they're admiring something in your Instagram or your portfolio and the budget is not realistic, you let them know. You don't pretend, you don't work for free, and you don't drag them along. You say no, but you do then, as you said, you turn around and you pass the baton and you give someone else an opportunity that is maybe earlier in their journey and it can work at the smaller budgets.
Yes, and which has been a really neat part of it, because I remember designers doing that for me, and being like, hey, this is too big of a project for me to take on. Like, is this something? And, I was able to build my portfolio that way. And it was a huge blessing. So it's just really, it's passing the baton.
I love it. I love it. Well, you're a remarkable young lady there, Carley, I have to say.
Well, I appreciate that. I am humbled by this journey, and even just to be on your podcast, LuAnn, I've really appreciated this.
Well, you have certainly contributed to it in the most positive way, and I thank you so much for sharing your time with us today, Carley.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been an absolute blessing.
I have to say, I am really happy of this amazing community surrounding all of us, supporting each of us and lifting each of us up. You are really the most powerful group of talented, smart people, and I am so fortunate to be part of all of this goodness with you. Like Carley, each and every one of you have so much to give, and I'm so appreciative of your willingness to talk about the things that are working, but also to share the hardships you faced in getting where you are. I just love these conversations, and they have been invaluable, not just to you, but to me and my businesses as well. Carley certainly struggled before she was able to see a different path for herself, find hope, and ultimately lift others up as she climbed to achieve a successful interior design and photography business. At 187,000 followers on Instagram and counting, Carley certainly has made a name for herself in the design world, and she did it bit by bit, first with photography, then layering and styling, and the most basic virtual design before she found herself with bigger design projects and full gut renos. The thing about Carley is, while she's young, she's been through enough to have a very good handle on who she is and what she's great at. And she's wise enough to source the right people to enable her to build a successful business. Her assistant sounds amazing, right? And I know what a game changer it is to have a financial expert in your court, especially if you're like me and it's your partner. Like most of us, she's a creative, and her tendency is to go with her passion, but she has learned, with the help of her assistant, to discipline herself. She keeps a solid routine in her workday, and she builds in mandatory breaks and meetings with her team. Carley has also arranged her business so that she has the time to work in her zone of genius, whether it's with photography, design, or interacting with her following on social media. I'm impressed by how strategic and disciplined she is with the time she dedicates to building and maintaining her social media presence. She's posting 2 to 3 times a week at the same time each time, using only the best shots, and then the clincher, blocking out time in her day to respond to comments and engage. Carley knows firsthand how valuable social media has been to her business, and she makes it her personal responsibility to feed the beast, to share her story, cultivate the relationships with her followers, and maintain the strong presence for her business. I wanted to ask you, have you heard about Revelwood's story? If you go back to episode 329, you'll hear from John Dupre of Revelwoods about how they've made it so easy to select the right hardwood flooring for your project, right from the interactive tool available 24/7 on the Revelwood site. To learn more and to open your trade account, visit revelwoods.com. Okay, now, paying it forward to other designers is important to Carley. I love to hear this. When she was getting started, people helped her, and now she's in the position to do the same. She shared that if she gets inquiries for jobs that are too small for her firm to take, she takes the time to refer those projects to her network of budding designers. As a business owner, doesn't it feel amazing to be able to refer a client to someone who would be thrilled to land such a good project? It's so important for us to remember how we got to where we are, and to look back and look around and make sure we're making the effort to give back and to pay it forward. Or, as Carley says, lift as you climb. I love it. So I'm sending a big thanks to you, Carley, and to you for listening to the show every single week. I appreciate you. Decide to be excellent. Thank you so much for joining me again today. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks, your resource for custom window treatments and awnings. To learn how we can help you on your next interior design project, go to www.windowworks-nj.com. And if you're interested in working with me on your business, either through masterminds or one-on-one coaching, or you want to know how to get my book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, or you just want to know what's going on in the podcast land and where I'm going to be, all of that is found at LuAnn Nigara.com. Thank you so much. Have an excellent day.